Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. The Chachapoya. There is perhaps no mountain civilization more mysterious than the Chachapoya of Peru. They are also called the Warriors of the Clouds, or the Cloud People, because of their high-altitude homes way up in the Andes Mountains. They lived in the dense and isolated cloud forests at the edge of the Amazonas, and although the Inca Empire did conquer their civilization before the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, the Inca were never really able to consolidate all their land. Incorporating the Chachapoya had been extremely difficult because they lived in such remote places, locations that were almost impossible to get to. They were also brave warriors who resisted the Inca with every step. Unfortunately, what makes the Chachapoya such a huge mystery is that we don't have a lot of archaeological evidence from them. Almost every source of information regarding the Cloud Warriors comes from either the Inca or the conquistadors who sought to destroy them. The Spanish chronicler Pedro Cieza de León wrote that after the Inca Empire annexed the Chachapoya lands, they slowly took on the customs of the Inca around Cusco. Then, by the 18th century, they were utterly obliterated. One of the strangest things about the Chachapoya is that they were said to have unusually pale skin compared to the other groups discovered in Peru when the Spanish arrived. The Spanish described them as the whitest and tallest people in the Americas. They were taller than the Spanish and powerful. Spanish records say the Chachapoya were such beautiful people that the Inca may have wanted to destroy their civilization just to kidnap their wives. To this day, nobody knows why the Cloud people were so pale. Historians are wondering if perhaps they were a distinct civilization, or perhaps descended from a different group of people that arrived in the Americas thousands of years ago. Number 9. The Lost City of Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta in California is allegedly home to a lost city. The city is supposedly hiding somewhere within the mountain and was once populated by magical giants with an advanced knowledge of mechanics and technology. Mount Shasta is one of the most striking geological features in California. It's the second highest peak in the Cascade Range, towering above the state at 14,179 feet. It was once an active volcano that spewed lava all over the surrounding area, but it is currently dormant. At its base are majestic green valleys once inhabited by indigenous Native Americans. It's such an imposing monument that the lonely mountain can be seen from over 140 miles away on a clear day. But what about the civilization of giants? This isn't something that we have archaeological evidence of. Instead, it all boils down to legend. Legend speaks of a secret city inhabited by the forgotten descendants of the Lemurians located on the mountain. The Lemurians were supposedly the first truly technologically advanced people on the planet. They lived on a lost continent that sank in the ocean between Europe and North America thousands or hundreds of thousands of years ago. Some believe the giants of Lemuria fled to California when their homeland sank. They then built a great city on Mount Shasta, or maybe underneath it, and eventually vanished, going extinct with the other giants of the ancient world, like woolly mammoths. Number 8. The Gooch Kingdom. The mysterious Gooch Kingdom is one of the greatest mysteries of Tibet. In the 9th century, about 1100 years ago, the mighty Tubo Kingdom fell to pieces and collapsed. The Tubo had ruled over the mountainous region of Tibet for centuries. In their absence, a new people rose to power. They were the Gooch Kingdom, and they conceived a marvelous civilization that lasted 700 years. Then, in the year 1630, Gooch was overthrown by the Kingdom of Ladakh. According to historical records, the Gooch Kingdom had roughly 100,000 people in it. When the King of Ladakh marched on the capital, he allegedly took the Gooch royal family back to his own city as captives. But no one is sure what happened to the 100,000 people who had been living under the Gooch king. The capital was suddenly abandoned, their great oasis was turned to a desert, and the people somehow vanished. There are no records of them migrating anywhere else. They were not welcomed into any other cities, and no mass graves have ever been found. The 100,000 people just sort of walked out into the mountainous plateaus of Tibet and mysteriously disappeared. And now for number 7, But first, I want to give a big shout out to Shubham Namdeo and Billy Owens. Thanks so much for watching and supporting Origins Explained. If you are new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join the family. Number 7. The Chimera Fire Mountain. Yanartas is a mountain sanctuary dedicated to the Greek god Hephaestus. It's an incredible place because fires have been burning here consecutively for about 2,500 years. These are natural fires spewing out of the ground, fueled by gas far below in the Olympus Valley. The mountain sanctuary can be found near the top of Mount Chimera in Turkey's Antalya province. It was originally identified in 1811 by Sir Francis Beaufort, and he named the site after the mythical fire-breathing monster called the Chimera. In Greek legend, the Chimera was a terrifying beast formed from various parts of other animals. The hero Bellerophon defeated the monster by shoving a spear attached to a lump of lead into the monster's mouth. In ancient times, people would have been in awe of the natural fires burning along the mountain. To them, these fires would have seemed like truly miraculous things, like the fire spewing out of a great god's forge in the mountain. And so, it's no surprise that they built a great temple here, dedicated to the god of blacksmiths, sometimes called Hephaestus, sometimes Hephaestos, and called Vulcan by the Romans. In all likelihood, there was a cult of worshippers stationed here on the mountain living largely in isolation. But then, by the 6th century AD, Christianity had shown up with a force. The temple was largely obliterated and replaced with a church and a chapel. Number 6. Uratu Castle. On an expedition in eastern Turkey, a team of archaeologists discovered a castle that hadn't been seen by human eyes in centuries. The castle was lost, completely hidden at an altitude of 8,200 feet above sea level. The team was digging at the top of the mountain when they came across stone structures. Shocked beyond their wildest dreams, the archaeologists started their search. They soon uncovered ancient walls, a cistern for holding water, ceramic fragments, and so much more. They had soon revealed the outline of a massive castle built 2,800 years ago by the enigmatic kingdom of Urartu, or the Kingdom of Van. The kingdom's reign was not a long one. They ruled eastern Anatolia from between roughly 860 BC until 590 BC. Their end was just as mysterious as their beginning. They constructed magnificent mountain fortresses, thrived for centuries, and then vanished in the blink of an eye. Historians believe their success was thanks to the temporary decline of the Assyrian Empire in the 8th century BC. But then, once the Assyrians recovered and were back in power, the Urartu were obliterated. This castle high up in the mountains was lost, decayed into a ruin, and was buried by dirt until now. Number 5. The Antarctica Civilization. A mysterious structure has been found on Google Earth in Antarctica that could hint at an ancient lost civilization. The image from Google Earth shows a structure in the shape of a large oval, roughly 400 feet across. Some say it's nothing but a natural phenomenon, while others are convinced it's the imprint of a large settlement that once stood in the mountainous lands of Antarctica. This would have been thousands of years before the continent was covered in ice. Scientists initially called the structure a sastrugi, which is a natural phenomenon formed by many years of freezing wind and heavy snow. All the blowing snow creates a shape that looks as if it were made by human hands. But according to Ashoka Tripathi from the University of Calcutta, the image does not show a natural phenomenon. Ashoka says the image is obviously showing an artificially made structure. It kind of resembles a pyramid, and is far from any kind of natural geological formation seen in nature. Another interesting thing is that the photographs were taken in a place that was once covered by roughly 1 mile of ice. The structure, or the remains of it, must have been buried a very long time ago. The big twist is that when conspiracy theorists say there was a civilization thousands of years ago in Antarctica, that directly contradicts science. Antarctica has been frozen solid for 34 million years. If there was a culture, a city, or civilization here, it certainly wasn't a human one. Number 4. Natunia. Drones may have just discovered the ancient lost city of Natunia. Natunia is on par with other lost civilizations like Atlantis or El Dorado. The city is known only because its name has turned up on a handful of very old coins. All indications point to Natunia having been a real place, mostly because ancient people didn't mint fictitious names on their money. But for all the searching, scientists have never found a hint of where the mysterious lost city may have been located. At least, not until now. It was only very recently that scientists made a discovery at the mountain fortress of Rabbana Merkuli that could change everything. Parts of this ancient city were first uncovered in 2009 in Iraq's Zagros Mountains. But because of the tense political situation, the rugged terrain of the remote wilderness, and a lack of funding, researchers were never able to fully investigate. But now, Michael Brown from the Institute of Prehistory at Heidelberg University has mapped the mountains using a drone. There appears to be a massive fortification crumbling away on the wall of the mountain. Towers, perimeter walls, and busted foundations litter the cliffs. Michael compared the ruins to the fortress of Helm's Deep from the Lord of the Rings movie. While not totally confirmed, this does appear to be the lost city of Natunia. The evidence is simple. Pictures on the rare coins with the city's name on it are identical to a pair of relief statues uncovered at the entrance of the mountain fortress. It looks like the coins came from this city, which was once a monumental castle town straight out of a fantasy novel. Number 3. The Tairona. The Tairona civilization lived in Colombia long before the Spanish ever came to pillage their lands. Recently, researchers came across a previously unknown lost city in Tairona territory. They found it high up in the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, an isolated mountain range stretching along the Caribbean coastline. The settlement sits on the edge of a steep ridge 5,000 feet above the ground, partially hidden by tangles of vines and jungle foliage. Researchers believe the city was constructed around the year 800 AD. Albert Lin, an explorer with National Geographic, has been conducting research in this part of Colombia for 20 years. He uncovered the ancient city using LiDAR imaging technology to get a glimpse through the vegetation. Little is known about the city at this point, especially since it's in such a difficult location to study. But it does appear to be one of the many mountain cities along the Caribbean. Sadly, we don't know much about the Tairona except what the Spanish wrote in their chronicles. We know some of their highest cities may have been 18,000 feet above sea level, and that they covered themselves in intricate gold ornaments. But unfortunately, we don't know much more than that. Number 2. Before Pompeii. There is a village that sits preserved in volcanic ash near Mount Vesuvius in Italy. That's the volcano that decimated Pompeii in the year 79 AD and preserved the city in solid stone. But this other village isn't Pompeii. It was a Bronze Age settlement destroyed 2,000 years before Pompeii was destroyed. In other words, it was the Pompeii before Pompeii. The village is called Afragola, and it was covered in a thick layer of ash and silt when Mount Vesuvius erupted 4,000 years ago. Anthropologist Tiziana Matarazzo from the University of Connecticut says it was covered in so much ash that nobody knew the site was there for 4,000 years. While archaeologists have been crooning over Pompeii for the past few decades, there's been another city even older that was buried by an even earlier volcanic eruption. This has been a truly amazing discovery, and something that archaeologists will be going crazy over for the next few years. The village was only recently identified thanks to a construction project. A team of archaeologists, including Matarazzo, were called in to study the site. They've identified houses where villagers lived with their families, a storage structure used for holding agricultural goods, and possibly the remains of a warehouse. What we're looking at here is a pre-Roman society not 10 miles from the Roman city of Pompeii, frozen in time. Number 1. Turquoise Mountain. The Minaret of Jam is the last monument standing in the mysterious lost ruins of a fabled city on the Turquoise Mountain. The tower, built in the 12th century, is the only structure still standing that proves the Ghurid Empire ever existed. This was the last great indigenous empire of Afghanistan, with their last stronghold hidden high above the valley where the Hari River and River Jam meet. Over 800 years ago, this was a multicultural city far ahead of its time. Historical records show that Jews, Christians, and Muslims lived within the city in peaceful harmony. These people were united by the commonalities they shared rather than divided by their differences. Unfortunately, it was the ruthless Mongol leader Genghis Khan's son, Ogedei Khan, who descended on the city in the 1220s with his army. He destroyed this city and slaughtered its people. All these centuries later, the only thing that remains of the Khan's brutality is the Minaret of Jam. It's a lonely monument, a sad tower inscribed with geometric patterns, verses from the Quran, and bands of beautiful calligraphy. It's the last vestige of a mysterious city whose inhabitants chose love and peace over hate and anger. Thanks for watching! Which of these ancient mountain cultures did you find the most fascinating? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. See you soon! Bye!